Hello everyone, the Professor here. Welcome to 2018. I wanted to do an update on my knife cost tiers. There are actually 3 different things that are provoking this. Only one of them is actually in the knife world. First of all, as you may be aware, Spyderco has recently increased the prices on all their knives by about 8%. A lot of people consider Spyderco to be pretty good values, or at least competitive. And this just kind of brings them up closer to some of their competition. These are their minimum advertised prices, or MAP. A lot of people say MAP prices, but that's sort of like saying ATM machine. That was the first thing that's prompting a change. Second, the Republican-controlled Congress has passed a tax reform bill here in the U.S., and while the exact details on how much more everybody's going to have take-home pay-wise is still kind of being ironed out, the general consensus from all but the most left-leaning news sources is that everybody's going to see a little bit more cash in pocket, which means you may have a little bit more money to throw at EDC items and knives in particular. And if you're in the knife habit, that may be one of the first things you thought of when you thought you were going to be getting more money this year. Lastly, every year we have some inflation, and so the value this year is less than it was last year. That means my knife tiers have to be adjusted to reflect that. Normally it would take a few years to do that, but because of the Spyderco price bump and the Republic tax bill, I decided to go ahead and start 2018 with a new cost tier listing. So, over here we've got the old tier. The tier names are not changing, only the values. And here we're getting the new tiers. So the Gimmick tier hasn't changed. We're still looking at below $5, just kind of a gimmicky knife. These are the add-ons, the second knife in a 2-pack, or something inexpensive like this model by Ozark Trail. You're going to get unmarked steel and questionable quality standards when you go this sort of price. Tier 7 are your budget knives, which last year was $5 to $20. I've raised that to $5 to $25. These are going to be kind of similar to your Gimmick. You may get a few named steels, but it won't be a high quality steel. Maybe a 420HC, or maybe a low grade 440. This is my representative knife for that right now. This is the Sanrenmu 7010. The next tier are your economy knives. And your economy knives used to go up to 40. Now they go from 25 to 45. And my pick for the economy tier is the recently reviewed CRKT Hootenanny. It's a very nice knife, and now that we've bumped it up to 45, it's almost always going to fall into this tier. This is the tier where you're going to see a lot of 8CR13 MOV and AUS 8 steels. Then we begin the S-Class, which begins with the standard tier. These are knives from $45 up to $80. The Rat Model 1 in D2 steel, which is usually right at the bottom of this tier. You can sometimes get it in the economy tier, but I think this is a good representative of a standard tier knife. This is where you can start seeing slightly nicer steels like D2 or VG10, but not amazing steels typically. If you see a really great steel, it's going to be in either a very short knife or an unknown brand that you're going to get it from. Next you have the select tier knives, which run from now $80 to $150. Note that it used to be $75 to $135. And this is where a lot of your Benchmades enter the picture. And my representative, once again, is the Benchmade Griptilian 551. This is the serrated version. The last S-Class knife would be your superior tier knives. Now, I actually had said in the 2017 version of this video that the superior that I wanted to illustrate this with was the Spyderco Paramilitary 2 in S110V steel, which I did manage to pick up. I actually ordered this between Christmas and New Year, so I just got this before the price went up. But even after the price increase, this is a superior tier knife. Here we have the S-Class. Standard, select, superior. In the higher tiers, you go into premium. Now, amusingly, my premium knife illustration last year was the ZT-0452 carbon fiber. But now that I've had to bump up the upper bounds for these tiers, This is no longer a premium tier knife, this is only a superior tier knife, which is going to make the value equation, when I review this thing, that much more appealing. But it also leaves me in the somewhat embarrassing position of not having a premium knife, or a Midtech knife, or a custom knife to illustrate these tiers. Comparing last year to this year's, your Gimmick knives haven't gone up at all. Your budget knives went up $5. Your economy tier upper bounds also went up $5. Your standard tier knives went up $5 from $75 to $80. Your select tier upper bound actually rose by $15 from $135 to $150. Your superior tier knives are bound by $50 from $200 to $250. And your premium tier from $200 to just over $300 to now $250 to $350, and I do not have an example of it. Your Midtechs, I just raised the upper bound to $600 to make up the $50 loss, approximately. And now my custom range begins at about $600. Of note, there are some production knives that fall in this Midtech category that aren't really Midtechs. The one that comes to mind for me, it would be the Benchmade Anthem, which is around $425, I believe. I would put it in the tier 1 Midtech, even though it's a production knife. But some production knives that were out of the $300 range last year have fallen into it. For instance, the Cold Steel 4MAX, as loved by Jimmy Slash, can be had for around $330. So it's now out of the Midtech category and into the premium category. So I hope these tiers are more reflective for the new year, unless another major company does a major price increase the way that Spyderco did going into this year. I probably won't reevaluate these at the beginning of next year. Again, if you haven't watched my video from 2017, as you move up in tier, you get better steels, you get potentially better actions, you get better brand names potentially, better warranties to go along with those brand names, and you move away from things like Teflon washers to metallic washers or bearings of some kind, or even something more innovative. So these are the knife tier breaks for 2018. I don't believe this impacts a whole lot of videos that I reviewed in 2017 in terms of the boundary points. If you want to see these in action, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and check out some of my knife reviews. More are coming. That's all for today. Class dismissed.